take advantage of your time anytime you go out west and have like a full park that's perfectly manicured and all that, because you get there and you're so fired up that you just want to ski it as much as possible. There's so many other ways you can go in the sport. The film route, half-pipe route, just backcountry route, like anything you want. There's something for everybody. You meet all kinds of really cool people and you keep those connections for your entire life. I don't have to do this if I don't want to. And then I remember, like, I'm just like, wait, no, this is it. This is what I love doing.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Athletic Stance podcast. On today's episode, I have a very talented young individual from Ontario, Canada, Oakville, Ontario, where he still resides. He grew up ski racing, but quickly turned from ski racing to moguls and then eventually to slope style. In one season, he broke 5 pairs of racing skis while attempting to hit rails and was often caught building jumps at the bottom of race courses. Seems to be a trend for the racer turned slope style or backcountry enthusiast. He finally settled into freestyle skiing at the age of 11 and joined the national slopestyle team in 2012, which would have made him 15 at the time, one of the youngest members ever in the program. He stood on his first major international podium in 2014, where he won gold at the AFP World Championships in Whistler. He also won the first ever Slush Cup in Australia, a tournament that is similar to the game of skate in skateboarding, but pins 2 professional skiers against each other in the park in competition to land the trick that the first one sets. And if you haven't checked out Slush, it is an awesome time to watch. People get super creative. I highly recommend watching the Slush Cup with Evan, the one that he won. Over the last couple seasons, he has been a consistent finalist. He made his X Games debut in 2015 and finished 7th in the Dew Tour in 2016. In 2017, he earned his first World Cup podium with a 2nd place finish in Stubai. He added a bronze medal to his resume at Mammoth Mountain in January of 2018 and made his Olympic debut at Pyeongchang last year in 2018, where he came in 6th place. On this podcast, we talked about a lot about the mindset, how to continually have fun and progress while keeping the pressure to a minimum, and overall just dove deep into the nature of the sport, of competition, of fitness and nutrition and mindset. We had to do this in 2 parts. I very much hope that you enjoy this episode with Mr. Evan McEachran.
My name's Evan McEachran. I'm 21 years old. I'm from Ontario, Canada. I got into free skiing just kind of through my family. They're avid skiers and have been weekend warriors their entire lives. And I started out racing, wasn't really my thing, did it for a while, and then kind of verged off and tried to create my own path from where I was from. And I guess it worked out because we're still doing it today.
Yeah, I was doing some research before the interview, and I heard the reoccurring theme was you building jumps at the bottom of ski races and breaking
Exactly.
races.
Yeah, it's true, man. Like, I'd sneak off into the park after a race or between runs even, and I'd obviously chip the edges because those things are like sharper than a knife. So they'd always break off, and I'd try and come up with an excuse like I hit a rock. But 5 pairs in 1 year, it adds up. Something's not right.
Yeah, totally. I remember I saw a movie with like Tanner Hall in it when I was maybe 8 or 9 years old, and I took an old pair of my race skis and I took an iron to the tail, bent the tail up to make twin tips.
Oh man, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's funny the things that we do. Like, you see the stuff that like seems fun to you, and you're like, yep, I'm gonna do that no matter what.
It's worth it, man. Yeah, everything.
So you went from racing to moguls and then to like slope style, right?
Yeah, exactly. So when I first started doing contests in freestyle, I guess would be the umbrella of the discipline. But in Ontario, there was like a combination of like moguls, half pipe, slope style, big air, all that stuff. So you'd just do it all kind of. And slope style was my favorite, so I stuck with that.
Slope is sick. You got it all. You got rails, you got jumps. Love slope. You ever do any urban?
I haven't really done much. It's definitely something I want to do, especially today with all the real ski edits having dropped. Like watching that makes me want to do it, but I know how burly it is, and it's definitely more dangerous than skiing on a mountain. Well, other than backcountry, obviously, but definitely more dangerous than a terrain park.
Yeah, totally. Having
Yeah,
the jumps manicured is the consistency there is always nice. That's for
exactly. Yeah. But I actually got some backcountry stuff going on at the end of the year this year. Going to do a trip with Head to Mount Baker, and we're going to revisit some of the old spots from old ski movies there and just kind of see what we can do. I think it'll be me, Aaron Blunk, Jesper Chatter, and then a couple of the powder guys as well. So that'll be really cool to kind of make my way over there and see how much I like it.
Yeah, that'll be sweet. It's a whole nother animal. I was just thinking about, I'm drawing a blank on who it was, but MSP did a movie when they went to Silverton, and I'm forgetting which athlete it was, but he had never really skied much backcountry, and he landed like 2 tricks while they were there.
Oh, yeah, dude.
Doing dub corks, and every time he landed in POW, it was just like,
Tom, yeah.
Yeah. So, like, what's the closest mountain to? You grew up in Oakville. Is that where you still live?
Yeah, that's where I'm at right now. Closest mountain kind of depends. Like, there's some really small stuff within an hour of where I live here, or you can drive 2 hours north to Collingwood, and you got like Blue Mountain there, Craigleith, Mount St. Louis nearby. So there's a fair few for sure. They're not massive, but pretty good for park skiing. They have awesome rails and some decent enough jumps.
Yeah. I mean, that's really all you need is like a decent set of jumps and some rails to practice on. And, it's like, I feel like some of the best skiers have come out of like the Midwest or some of those smaller mountains where it challenges you to like get creative and you have to adapt your skills to the level of the park and the mountain versus like just having a perfectly, the perfect park to learn everything on.
Absolutely. And it makes you take advantage of your time anytime you go out west and have like a full park that's perfectly manicured and all that. Cause you get there and you're so fired up that you just want to ski it as much as possible. You never get to the point of taking advantage of it, I guess.
One question that just comes to mind right away is like, so for me, I spin left, and left is pretty easy for me to like, get 10s or 12s, but I can't like spinning right. I think I've really only ever done like a 5. When did you start moving into both direction spins, and what does that look like for you? Like, how do you convince yourself? I don't know. For some reason, I just have a block spinning right, and I don't know what it is.
And that's a really good question for sure. And I remember like pretty much the exact point where I decided I should start doing stuff both ways. And it was one of the old Do Tours, maybe North Star or something, like way back in the day. Charles Gagne was doing a switch left 7. And I remember imagining like, how the hell are you spinning switch left off a jump like that when your natural direction's to the right? And I was like, well, if I ever want to go there, I'm going to need to learn how to do this stuff kind of now. I just started like doing 3s and 5s and 7s and stuff both ways before I got more comfortable doing them all one way. Yeah, it was just kind of like a natural progression. And now it doesn't really feel like natural or unnatural. It's just like you're doing it left or right. And it's just kind of like a different trick, even though it feels completely different. It feels kind of similar for me now, which is nice.
It still seems like you're maybe a little bit more comfortable with left. Like you get that real nice critical when you're spinning left, and sometimes when you're right, it's like safety.
Yeah, exactly. So left, I definitely have like better grabs and all that jazz and axes and stuff. But yeah, I'm trying to get better at the right as well. And switch right has been tough for me for a while, but I've kind of broke through a little bit there. And I don't know, we'll see. Try and get some new grabs this summertime, this spring over there.
Yeah, totally. Spring is like the perfect time. I love powder skiing. I love, like my background is in big mountain and competing on the
Yeah,
freeride world qualifier circuit, free skiing world tour and stuff like that. So I love powder, but I almost think that like spring skiing, especially spring park skiing or summer park skiing,
yeah.
is like just as good, if not better. And that's kind of a reoccurring theme. Like talking to Alex Ferreira and Nico Porteous, like both of them were like, "Yeah, spring skiing, nothing beats it with your best friends."
Honestly, dude, yeah. And for me especially too, like I don't know, I'm kind of known for always wearing a sweater when I ski. So when springtime comes around and I can actually be comfortable and warm in that sweater or a long sleeve shirt, it's kind of nice.
Why the sweater?
I don't know. I like the style of it. I also really like bib pants and just like putting the suspenders over top and whatnot. But I guess I just, when I was super young, always skied in a sweater, and it made it kind of easier to move around when you're doing big tricks. Like, obviously, this day and age, like, there's way more lightweight jackets and all that that are way more maneuverable. But I'm just so used to wearing a sweater now that I've kind of rolled with it and I like it.
Yeah, totally. No, I mean, like when you're Michelin manning it up, it's hard to have
Oh, for sure.
hard to set the tricks and have that maneuverability. And especially like once you start moving into double corks and stuff like that, where like, just bringing your knee up by like 4 to 6 inches completely changes the trajectory of your rotation.
Yeah. Oh,
It's
yeah.
it's super important for
For
sure.
sure, man. I agree.
What's been your favorite part of the skiing journey so far? Like you've been able to experience quite a bit at a young age, like X Games and World Cups and Dew Tour and stuff like that. What's and filming with MSP, like what's kind
hmm
of been some of the highlights or some of your favorite parts of the journey so far?
I guess like my favorite thing about the whole ski career and stuff is getting to travel as much as I do. I feel like I'm 21 years old and I've traveled more than most people get to in their entire life. And you meet all kinds of really cool people and you keep those connections for your entire life. So it's really cool to have that moving forward because I feel like those are experiences that you can't buy, you can't learn in school. And so I'm really grateful for that for sure.
Like what's one spot that stands out that you've traveled to that's like offered you an amazing cultural experience or something that stands out in your memories that's like something that you're going to bring with you for a long time?
Sauce Bay is definitely a really cool town because over there it's like a really little village. You take cars in, but in the village there's no cars allowed. So it's you skateboard or walk everywhere you go, which is really cool. I guess it's good for the environment for all the environmentalists out there. Yeah, I don't know. It's really fun to just kind of cruise around on a skateboard to the mountain instead of hop in the back of a van.
Skating is another thing that you do in the summer, right? How do you feel like that's like helped your skiing? I skated for a while when I was early 20s. I'm 28 now. It definitely, I feel like it helped me. Like with skating, when you're trying tricks, you kind of have to beat the crap out of yourself just to land
Oh,
one
big
trick.
time. Yeah.
You know, how has that helped your skiing? Or yeah, has it like left you not able to ski on some days or something like that?
Oh, definitely. Like a million times that's happened to me. For me, skateboarding, a lot of it is fear management is one thing that comes to mind because, that saying, like, scare yourself once a day. If you're going skating and you're trying something, there's actually a fair bit of risk because, I mean, I'm not that great, so I don't really know how to fall. And I could break my arm, and I have hurt myself skateboarding to points where I haven't been able to ski even before. So, yeah, just fear management and kind of focusing in on trying something and also the style aspect of it. I get a lot of inspiration from skateboarders, so just trying to mess with different styles over there helps as well.
Yeah, totally. I feel like it's so funny how skiers I feel like have almost taken on more skateboarding style than even some snowboarders, like including Slush Cup, skiers decided to
Oh
do
yeah, big time.
slush and everything. Like what are the pieces of skateboarding that you find yourself gravitated towards that allow you to like transfer from skateboarding into skiing and yeah, like what are those the things that you take from skateboarding and
Yeah,
use?
for me, like in skateboarding, I kind of ride more of like bowl and mini ramp and rails rather than flip tricks. So for me, I can kind of take from that as just like the style of how you pump around, where you hop on, hop off, that kind of stuff. I mean, I'm not super good at skateboarding, but like just watching videos of skateboarders, you get ideas for different kind of tricks. And especially with a lot of the whole new wave side of skiing, you can see so much of the skateboarding stuff being brought over. Like Jake Mago, his real ski edit, you can see like he's definitely got to have a lot of inspiration from skaters, because his skiing's so fun to watch. And even the filming side of his video, how it's filmed, is more like a skateboard edit.
Yeah, I mean, even just like looking the Instagram post that you just had with Sochi, which the first trick in that, what was it, right 4 on, switch up, 2 out? Like,
yeah,
so nuts. Absolutely nuts. The next little section you roll in and you kind of use that thing, like that rail on the left, just like as a setup for the next one. Yeah, just like having fun with it and having that flow.
Sure. And that's exactly what I'm talking about with like the inspiration of like flow and line choice and that kind of stuff. Like I figured you could just hit like that kind of hip thing and go straight into the down flat down. But I figured this way you could go in, just do an extra little stall, manage your speed a little bit, and looks cool at the same time.
Yeah, totally. And I mean, at the end of the day, like skiing's all about having fun, right? No matter where you're at in the sport, whether you're hucking doubles or triples or, just cruising around on groomers, it's all about having fun. And I think those little things that make it actually look more fun and kind of, like make it look like you're playful instead of just like that whole like mid 2000s, like I'm going to be the baddest mofo on the mountain sort of thing,
Dude, exactly. It's so true. Yeah. And I feel like with the progression of slopestyle courses and stuff, like the course at the Olympics just looked so fun to everyone on TV. I'm pretty sure, like all the different options, everybody's doing something different. And that's a sport that I feel like I would have wanted to get into, because it's not super regulated. You can kind of go and do what you want. It's not like a ski race where you just do the same run every time kind of thing.
Yeah, totally. Like thinking back at it, I really wish that I would have jumped into freestyle and skiing park more quickly than I did. It was always something like I was always going and hitting the park, but I was decent enough at racing that I had that feedback loop that I was getting results. Yeah. So it was like I continued along with racing until I was 18. But I remember like we had this fundraiser for the ski club, and I was like sitting in the office. They needed someone in the office for whatever reason. It was like a ski swap, and they were selling gear and all this. And I'm like watching ski porn and 7 Sunny Days, and I'm like, that's what I want to be doing. But I'm stuck, doing this. I remember my grandpa has since passed away, but when I was like really young, we were at Winter Park and I had watched the video, and we built this jump onto this like electrical box, and it was like maybe like a 4-foot drop off the electrical box. He was like helping me get speed to grind the electrical box. Dude, it's that kind of stuff that you love. Back to Pyeongchang, that course looked nuts, looked absolutely nuts. Just everything about it was very different from, I think, a lot of things that freestyle skiing has seen, with just how many options there were and the way that they created like bowls and hips and these butter pads and everything. Yeah. What was your favorite part about that course, and what would you like to see more of in that aspect?
Yeah, I guess overall my favorite part of that course would have been just seeing some use of like bigger rails and a more beefy rail section. Because for a while there, slopestyle, it kind of got to a point where you'd see like down rail, then an up rail, then 3 jumps or something. And people weren't getting rewarded for standing out on the rails. But I feel like the encouragement of building bigger features is going to make it look gnarlier and be weighted higher towards a judge's score from that section. Also, just like the aspect of having a bunch of different options on each section so that no one's really doing the same thing. So everyone has their own way to stand out on that course.
Yeah, I mean, rails are something that you really stand out on. One of the things about your style of skiing is like you kind of sit right in between, where you have like this real technical rail ability, but you also have both side triples, which is, that's a pretty beastly repertoire of skills. Like Hesper has his real tech rail stuff, including the urban stuff that he does, but
Yeah.
he's not necessarily throwing the same full side triples and everything, unless
Yeah.
I'm mistaken. I don't think
No,
that he's throwing.
I'm not sure. I don't really know either, but maybe he does. Who knows with that guy? He can do like anything he wants, probably.
Yeah, for real. He's kind of a superhero. He's beast.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. Everyone's definitely kind of got their own combination of what's better, but I've always like growing up, I liked rails way more. And then more recently, the past couple of years, I started to love jumping. I guess I just got to be less of a little pussy when it came to jumps. So I kind of decided to start sending it more and learned a lot of stuff, and it got way more fun for me.
So you're talking about fear earlier and like how skateboarding is a way for you to go and scare yourself a little bit and like push your limits there. What's one of the things that you do to like manage your fear? Like when you're out there trying the first triple or first on, right side triple, what do you do? How do you get yourself into that mindset where you have built yourself up? Obviously, like you don't just one day, I mean, maybe one day you wake up and you're like, today's the day I'm throwing the triple.
Yeah.
But it's probably, progression what does that look like?
The main thing is obviously waiting for the right feature, waiting for a jump that you feel comfortable on. The kick on the jump is proper. It's not too flat, not too poppy. Speed's good, weather's good, that kind of thing. Everybody likes a different kind of jump. For me, I like a poppy jump for that because it helps you get into it pretty easily. But a lot of thinking, man, like falling asleep, thinking of tricks every day, trying to figure it out in your head. And for me, it was more just like do all the progression and visualize. And then when the right feature and day comes, then you just kind of have to sack up and send it.
Are you thinking about quads at all? They're happening more.
Yeah. Me personally, I don't see myself doing a quad anytime in the near future. I think for me, my direction will be to kind of work on different grab combinations and triples and different axes and triples, because I don't really see a day and age where in my future where I'm going to need to do a quad and a slope style run or a big air, because I think those will be staying with like a safety grab, super flippy for a long time. So I think that I'll just go a direction that suits me better and maybe the sport better, depending on how you look at it. But yeah.
Yeah. I mean, while we're on that topic, like what's your, like the progression of the sport in the last 10 years has been pretty unreal. Especially like, with triples becoming more of a staple, more of a standard, a lot more people have it in their bag of tricks. And, the quad is every time you up that level of the amount of rotations, then you up the level of difficulty, you up the danger level. So what's your opinion on a quad and why?
Well, I mean, first of all, I'm down with it. I mean, I don't have any hate for quads. I think it's insane and like it's the most ridiculous thing to do on skis. It's so dangerous, it's so hard, it's so scary. Kind of gets all those factors. It's so technical. But I mean, yeah, it's definitely hard to watch for a normal kid sitting at home when he's 8 years old, 10 years old, and he sees someone do a quad cork. It's like, you can't see yourself doing that someday. I know when I grew up, I was watching more like cork nines, blah, 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 kind of the first doubles, that sort of stuff. And that seemed attainable. Whereas a quadruple cork kind of just seemed a little bit superhero like. So it's definitely mixed emotions for me. But I mean, I have the utmost respect for anybody doing them and no disrespect for anybody who's wanting to do them either.
Yeah, totally. I think like the progression of the sport is gonna go in, it's always gonna try and become better. People are always becoming better and as features become, like they're designed so well at this point. And when you're feeling it, you're feeling it. And if you have it on your mind for long enough, it's kind of, you just have it. Like when I was like thinking about double backflips, I just had it so ingrained in my mind. And then I found the right feature and I'm like, I'm doing it. Like, I don't care.
Exactly, man. That's the same as me. Yeah. But that's another cool thing about skiing too, is like there's people who really don't want to do quad corks and triple corks and double corks and contests, but there's so many other ways you can go in the sport. The film route, half pipe route, just backcountry route, like anything you want. There's something for everybody. So does kind of grind my gears when people are really hating on the direction of contest skiing, because it's like that's only one side of it. There's still so many different directions you could go. And I have so much respect for all those other directions too. I love watching all those videos. I'm always scrolling through new schoolers, watching edits of guys who don't compete, and it's awesome.
I know you're competing in, you're still strong on the competition circuit, but you've talked a little bit about getting into filming and like, upping your social media presence, even, like, or media presence more. And what does that look like for you? Like, you're going to film at Baker, all the old spots. I love that. I used to go out to the water tower in Crested Butte and hit that and stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah. What does that look like for you? Like, what would be in the next like 10 years? What would be your dream as far as like, what do you want to see for yourself in the future with filming and all that?
Yeah. Well, obviously, like you said, competing is my main focus right now while I'm kind of in that prime and have the right tricks for that. I want to be skiing for a long time, whether it be filming a little bit of park, a little bit of urban, a little bit of backcountry. Obviously, the older you get, harder it is to smash yourself off icy park jumps all day. But definitely would love to get out and ski more in the backcountry and explore that side of skiing more. Maybe at some point in my career, film a street segment or something. I think that would be awesome as well. I'm a big rail guy. I like rails a lot, so that's why I think that'd be cool too.
Once you beat yourself up a lot, it's a lot easier to be like, yeah, I'm going to go and find some powder to hook myself in.
Exactly. Yeah, for sure. So I'm really looking forward to getting out there and just kind of trying my hand at it, seeing how I do, seeing how I like it. Seems like everybody that does it gets hooked right away. So I'm used to getting one powder a year and I'm screaming the whole day, having so much fun. So I think a couple weeks of that filming this year, and I'll be doing a couple more weeks filming in it the next year,
Yeah, I mean, it's super addictive, and there's just a slightly different feeling that you get, a slightly different vibe that you get when you're out there, in the backcountry. And yeah, I love it personally, for sure.
Yeah, it's a dangerous place though, that's for sure. I mean, I'm not going to step foot anywhere until I do my Avi courses and I'm well educated, because I've heard of some crazy stories in the past, and obviously it's a dangerous place to be. And just try and make the best decisions while you're out there.
Yeah, it's one of those places where you take your life in your own hands anytime you're on skis and you're trying to push the limit of the sport, but especially in the backcountry and, being able to fully assess what's happening with layers of snow. And it's one of the hard things about traveling is you got to understand like every layer of snow that's fallen all year, and wind and everything. And, being able to assess when you dig a pit and understand like where the weak layers are. And, I think with backcountry, it's like, how do you err on the side of caution over and over and over and, wait until the days really, truly perfectly line up? Because when they don't, there's just the avalanche in CV that buried 2 skiers. And it's rough. I've lost some friends to avalanches, and it's scary. It's just such a big unknown that, like, obviously you're never out there. You're pursuing fun. You're pursuing having these experiences with your friends, with your, with your homies, and then it can go south in a matter of 2 seconds.
Exactly. And that's why it's such a terrifying place. And I just definitely think it's important to kind of make sure I'm very well educated before I go out there, not only for myself, but for anybody else in case anything goes south, so you can lend a helping hand and kind of make sure everyone can get out as safe as possible if something goes wrong.
Yeah, that's one of the things that when you start to move into the backcountry, it becomes a lot more of a team or like a tribe sport. When I was talking to Ingrid Backstrom, I was like, skiing isn't really a team sport. It's not really a solo sport. It's kind of like a tribe sport,
That's a perfect way of looking at it, actually. Yeah.
The ski community it's special. It's super special because you all come together under this one vision of like, let's go be hooligans and like fun on the mountain.
Yeah, and even in like slope style contests and stuff, I mean, there's obviously a little bit of rivalries between people, but everyone's super good friends. Like, I travel with the Canadian team all year, and those guys I live with are like probably my best friends in the world. Like, it's really cool. And obviously you want to do best for yourself, but it's not like you're cheering anyone else or like pushing anyone else down. You want them to do well too. You just want to be a little bit better.
Yeah, totally. You want to get your grab just a little bit more tail or whatever it
Exactly.
is.
Yeah. But it's always nice, like when a contest is ridiculous, even if you come like, I was fourth place in X Games Big Air this year, but like I was in third place before the last run, and there was still me, Woodsy, Henrik, and Oystein to drop. I think Woodsy was kind of the only guy in a position to bump me still. And at the top, we just both hugged and we're like, dude, whatever happens, this has been so much fun. Like, this has been such a good showcasing of skiing, and tonight was insane. So, like, just go fucking send it, I guess.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, what's that look like for you? Like, I feel like you've been poised to really, like, you've always had the bag of tricks, or at least in the last couple of years, you've had the bag of tricks. You've been kind of poised to really
Yeah.
well. There's like one little unfortunate circumstance with, what was it, right triple 16 not this year, but last year, where like you landed just a little deep and your feet just a little wide apart. And yeah, like how does that feed into your motivation? How do you learn from those things? What's the, like what's the lesson? What's the takeaway? Because I'm excited to see you just stand on top of a podium here at some point, because it's well deserved, that's for sure.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, no, it's like absolutely heartbreaking when that happens, and like the instant thought is like, why didn't I try more? Like, why didn't I do more of those when I was in Stubai in November, like, and for me this year when I was in Stubai, it was just kind of like, I got into this headspace where I would go back and think of that and put myself in the same position and be like, what would I have done differently? And I just would go up early in the mornings. I would just bang out like 5 or 6 of each big trick that was really scary for me almost every day. And then this year, when it came to contests and stuff, it felt way more natural and comfortable. And due to it, for example, when I showed up there, I just felt like so ready to go. My tricks were all warmed up, and so everything aligned well. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Due to her beginning of the year, you stood on top of the podium, right?
Yeah. So that was my first like big win, I guess. Like I'd done Grand Prix and stuff before, but yeah, that was my first, I guess, big contest win. So that felt really good, and it motivated me again too, just to like relive that feeling another time soon.
Yeah, it's a crazy sport. Just like how one little mindset or, one little thing can make the difference. Thinking back to like David Wise in the Olympics last year, barely making qualifiers and then having the equipment trouble and then being able to pull that last run together. And it's crazy because any one of you guys on any given day can take it. And it's just like how it all lines up for everyone. And just that repetition of like knowing exactly what it feels like to pull each trick. And
I mean, for me, like I definitely think that slopestyle, half pipe, all that stuff it's almost more of a mental game now than anything. There's 20 guys, like you were saying, that could win on any given day. And for myself, the past couple of years, like leading into the Olympics last year, I hadn't got a podium in 2 or 3 years at that point. And I like would always qualify super high, and then going into finals, I would just like be thinking about like, I need to break the like seal, get a podium. Like, I don't know. And then I kind of just chilled out, and I was like, it really doesn't matter that much, dude. Like, you're here to have fun. Just remember that. And then leading into the Olympics, I think I got like 4 podiums in the start of the season. So that like kind of realigned my thinking. And now I have a way better understanding of how I need to compete for myself, because it's different for everyone, obviously, but I think I've got that headspace down for me now.
Nice. Yeah. Do you work with a sports psychologist, or do you have like morning or evening routines that you like stick to on race day or just every day? What does that look like?
So yeah, I worked a lot with a sports psychologist, and I actually have no routine at all. Like I try and just be as completely mellow as possible. Like I won't do anything different on contest day than on a normal day and skiing. Like in the past, I would like have all my stuff ready to go at the door, but then you wake up and you're like, oh, everything's there. It must be a contest. But like, I kind of try and just make myself think it's another day skiing and not a contest. And then you're less overwhelmed and can get in that proper state of mind.
Yeah, it's crazy how those like little cues, like obviously there's a bunch of cues that make you understand that it's like race day, comp day, whatever it is, where in Big Mountain, there's banners on the hill and you're inspecting
Yeah.
and, like there's a crowd at the bottom. And so it's like, it's finding that balance of like, okay, well, how do you balance that and just, convince yourself that it is just a normal day of skiing. There's just 1,000 people at the bottom ready to watch you.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely really hard to fake it, but I guess you just kind of have to roll with it. And it took years and years to make it happen. But for me now, it's just like if you get in that zone of like getting really stressed out, you just have to think back and remember, like, why did I start doing this? Why do I love doing this? And blah, blah, blah. And like, remember, the people you're competing against are still like your idols. So if they beat you, it's not the biggest deal in the world. I just want to put on a good showcase for skiing.
I think, just remembering your why is important for anything, like whether
Yeah.
it's an entrepreneurial journey, that's, professional skiing, professional athletic journey, whatever it is, remembering why you're doing it is super important, and being able to like anchor it down to that emotion of like, all decisions are kind of based off of emotion. And so like, if you can really be able to invoke that emotion consistently and remember why, and then that why evokes the emotion that helps you push past, whether it's, while you're working out, or, if you're doing, a specific diet, or, you're at a comp day and you're like, this is way too serious and I hate it. Why am I doing this?
Exactly. Yeah. And I've had those days where I'm competing and it's like gusting winds and I'm not landing anything and I just ate shit. And it's like, I think in my head, I'm like, I don't have to do this if I don't want to. And then I remember, like, I'm just like, wait, no, this is it. This is what I love doing. And then that kind of helps you get out of that funk and figure everything out, for me at least.
Yeah, at the end of the day, like just being able to anchor back to that why, and be able to like go out and have fun, and figure out, what exactly fun means to you. Because for some people, fun is, there's type 1 fun, type 2 fun, or whatever.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't ever see there being a day where I'm not having fun skiing or whatever, but the day that comes, I'll probably stop, because I mean, that's why I got into it, for fun, and I don't want it to be any other way, really.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I got super burnt out of racing for a while, and stopped skiing, and then I realized like it was such a big passion of mine that I had to do it. I just needed to figure out a way that I could have fun while I was doing it.
Exactly.
And it wasn't racing anymore, but went to park for a little bit, and then started chasing the free skiing world tour. And that's when like found my community of people that really made me feel at home. And that was the big turning point that brought me back towards it, and here we are.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that's just it. That's how it should be for everyone.
Do you do any sort of like meditation? Meditation's huge in the sports world.
Not necessarily meditation for me. Like, I've toyed with the idea, but I haven't really learned how to do it properly yet. For me right now, it's more just like visualization, like eyes shut, kind of lay down and visualize what you're trying to do, whether it be like a comp run or a new trick, and just go through it in your mind and kind of run it back and back.
Yeah, meditation, for the longest time for me, like I have such an ADD or ADHD brain that like the longest time it was super hard, and I had to ease into it with walking meditation. Like I would just walk and do things like focus on my breath. And, a lot of it, you think that it's like just this idea of like emptying your mind. And I think it's almost impossible to have an empty mind. Like thoughts just flow,
Yeah.
Unless
That's
you're
definitely a lot of what the like the sports psychologists talk about is like, oh, like empty your mind. And it's like, well, it's so hard to do that. And they do have a lot of things, like you're saying, like watch your breath, try and figure out how to get that on par with like your life, so you're not thinking about it, kind of thing.
One thing that I discovered about meditation and visualization is it's kind of like a muscle. Like the first time that you try and visualize something, it's like a little fuzzy. Like you can put yourself in that frame of mind, and you can put yourself in that area where you're like, okay, I'm going to set the trick this way and it's going to feel kind of like this. But the more that you do it, the more that you practice visualization, the more you
Yeah.
actually really feel it in your body, you know?
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I definitely have some plans in the future to try and get my meditation game higher up because I think that can definitely be a big benefit with what we do.
yeah, totally. One thing that I started doing recently is every morning, and this is, I feel lucky that I'm finally able to do it. For the longest time, I couldn't wake up and meditate. I probably would have either like fallen back asleep or just gotten so distracted that like
Yeah.
nothing would have gotten done. But I've been listening to the Tim Ferriss podcast. Tim Ferriss
Okay.
show.
I've heard of it. Yeah.
He's an entrepreneur and badass dude. He interviewed this investor, Ray Dalio, talked about like 20-minute transcendental meditation. So like repeating the same word or phrase over and over in your head for 20 minutes. And it's actually made a huge difference in my life, but I'm finally able to do it. I wasn't able to do it for the longest time. I just like got distracted.
Really?
So,
So Tim Ferriss is called?
the Tim Ferriss show. And I'll send you a link to it.
Okay, yeah. I'll definitely look into that.
Yeah.
Because I only just recently, like in the past couple of months, started like tuning into podcasts, and I feel like it's such a better way to sit on a long flight or a car ride. Like you actually use your mind and like think about stuff and learn stuff. So yeah, I'm really stoked on that kind of thing.
Yeah, podcasts. I'm like obsessed with the Tim Ferriss show. It's hard because there's so many amazing podcasts out there. It's like, how do you pick and choose, especially because it's long content? Speaking of like the entrepreneurial stuff, I read that you were accepted to a college for a business management degree and you chose to postpone that. Why were you wanting to pursue business management? What attracts you to that?
Yeah, good question. So in high school, I really liked marketing. That was kind of a course I felt like I could relate to what we do and building my own brand and social media and trying to grow that. And management, I mean, that program is just like a broad range kind of. And I'd like to go the marketing route the further into that course that I get. And just recently, actually, I decided to start that soon. So I've got that all lined up. And over the next couple of weeks, I'll probably get going. So I'm really excited to start using my brain and like learn about that whole world.
Cool. Yeah, that's awesome. I have spent a lot of money investing in coaches and mentors in marketing and branding.
Okay.
And yeah, I'd love to like continue that conversation in any way, shape or form about marketing and branding and, like business in general. I run a digital media agency. Yeah, anytime you want to have a conversation about that, feel free to hit me up for sure.
Dude, of course. I love it. That sounds like a great idea.
Yeah, marketing's fun. It's so much fun because it's like a huge thing of what we do as athletes is building our own personal brand and figuring out like, how do you become a marketing asset to a brand or company or corporation? How do you show your value? Because so many people out there, when they're chasing sponsorships, they're just like, give me free gear. And
it's like, what can you give them back? That's what matters to them.
Yeah, exactly. And that's how, for anyone that's listening, I'd love to hear what you have to say for how you've approached that aspect of like, what can I offer to brands versus what can you give me? Because there's a million and one amazing skiers out there, not skiers like you pulling triples both ways, but there's a million and one, good skiers out there. And I really think it is like, how do you offer something to the brand? So I'd love to hear you speak on that in any way.
Yeah, for me, it's kind of like I try and take it as not pushing it on people. So like, say I have an endorsement from a company, I don't want to just post a photo of a Monster can, for example. I'll share something that's genuine and real, like me doing an activity where I was actually drinking a Monster beforehand or during it, like, and keeping it real and not pushing it on stuff. I feel like that's really important. That's also kind of why my sponsors are companies that I actually use and I really like their products. And so that's why I feel like it's more genuine for me.
That authentic lifestyle, it's so easy to watch the highlight reel on social media, like whether it's a digital influencer, like the travel lifestyle or whatever. And yeah, like it becomes kind of disingenuous sometimes because it's just the highlight reel. It's just the sunshine. It's not the darkness.
Exactly. Yeah. Or like there's photos and stuff on Instagram and videos that people will post where it'll be like a video and you can't even see any product in it, and it just says their name in like the description, which is good and all, and it has their name there. But like for me, I like to actually do something that shows the product being used, that kind of thing.
Like learning a new trick or going skateboarding, and like you drink a Monster beforehand, it gives you the energy to go out and, focus and learn. It's cool to have that intersection of actually showing, using the product. Like, I skied for Grass Sticks and IFA Pro Wear, and both of them are bamboo. And, I'm very pro the environment, and, bamboo is a very sustainable product. But I think it's really important that you are authentically using the product to, you wouldn't want to sell anything that you haven't used to someone before.
Exactly. Then it's not a genuine impression. Other than that, I mean, it's also just about being like an outgoing person and socializing a lot and kind of becoming a likable personality,
Yeah, totally. Because people do business with people first and foremost, and they do business with people that they know, like, and trust.
Exactly.
And so, you gotta be extrovert, even if you're, an introvert. Take the time to go out, and shake hands, and make friends, and represent your own personality the way that it is, but also show it to the world.
Exactly. Yeah. It's also about, like, since the ski community isn't the biggest community in the grand scheme of things, it's about building your brand so it can go different routes as well. So trying to, I guess you could say, advertise or reach out to a broader audience other than just the ski community. Yeah,
totally. And there's so many, interrelated subject markets that you can tap into, from skiing to extreme sports, or from skiing to sustainability, or from skiing to, any number of markets. And then, when you can take that niche and overlap it with another niche, overlap it with another niche.
Exactly. Yeah, you got it.
Hey, just one more thing before you go. I wanted to say thank you so much for listening to today's episode. I hope that you really enjoyed it. A couple things that I would ask that you do if you enjoyed today's episode. Number one, go follow us on Instagram at The Athletic Stance Podcast. Number two, if you don't mind leaving a review, rating it, and subscribing, it always helps. It helps spread the word. It helps me know what you guys are enjoying or not. And if you don't mind leaving a comment on Instagram, letting me know what you're enjoying, what you're not enjoying, I will always take into consideration. And feel free to send me a message with recommendations on who you'd like to hear from, what you'd like to hear us talk about. And as always, thank you so much for listening, for your time, and we'll see you next time at the Athletic Stance Podcast.